Hello and welcome to my presentation on the future of educational technology. Here I'm going to mainly focus on cybernetics and kind of brain reading technology as a kind of platform to jump into some speculations about the future of educational technology. So I hope you enjoy. Okay, so the first step is reading the brain, and there's a lot of research going on about this in medical technology and medical research fields, mainly dealing with things like prosthetics and kind of ways to help people with Parkinson's disease or kind of immobility disorders, catatonic coma victims and such. So, up to this point they have technology that can read actually very specific parts of brain signals and interpret them. So it's, the kind of technology in this area is getting to the point where they can very accurately read what the brain is doing without actually touching the brain. So it's a non-invasive kind of system. What being able to read the brain very accurately, precisely, and non-invasively leads to is cybernetics, and cybernetics in the sense of sci-fi level cybernetics, where people have custom-made eyeballs or hands or limbs that they can control just as well, or maybe even better than an original hand or eye or limb. And so technology at this point is at this point now. And so, there's beginning to be, functional cybernetic implants that are two-way. Not only are they helping the body do one thing, but also being influenced by the body or by the mind. And this is a big step, I think. And so what that leads us to is my next point. The next point is once you have all cybernetics in place where you can read the brain and you begin to understand the brain in such a way that you can actually begin to influence the brain within its own systems. So then you have kind of not just cybernetics where the brain is, where the device is reading the brain and interpreting brain signals to cause some reaction. So, ocular signals that will, cause an cybernetic eye implant to do this or that, or make, some hand move or make a computer screen cursor move. But you get to a point where the device or implant can actually affect the brain state. And they have this with audio, where they can actually stimulate wirelessly the audio nerve and make people hear an electronic version of sound. So there's actually no sound wave. So they're basically just hearing digital sound directly into the auditory nerve. And so as this technology progresses, then we get to the point where we will understand the brain well enough, we'll understand the nervous system well enough that we can implement flash learning. And what flash learning is that you have the basic, neurological imprint of knowledge, and you can just flash it onto the brain, and within minutes, seconds, whatever you want to imagine how long it takes the process to go, someone has suddenly learned a new skill or information. And of course the limitations on this are unknown, but if we extrapolate into the future using imagination and no limits, it could just be boom, snap, you know this or that if you have the flash learning template for it. And so, where does that leave, teachers and education? So, education will become not, teaching content delivery in the sense that you have your students in front of you, but you will be the person responsible for designing or maintaining these flash learning brain patterns and overseeing the implementation and integration of the knowledge into your students. So definitely it would be a very different educational system where, if knowledge could just be flashed into your mind, and then it would definitely become an education system very focused on application of knowledge rather than acquisition of knowledge, because acquiring knowledge would be very simple, just flash it on. I mean, if it's past knowledge, of course, acquiring new knowledge and scientific discovery would also be very important, and because if it's not already learned yet, then it can't be flash learned. So the final state this brings us to is what I would like to call electronic personality templates. So I mean, if you have the technology where you can understand the brain and brain waves and nervous system to the extent where you can just flash knowledge onto people, then it's very easy to take the next step, which is to just put an entire person or personality, or the sum of what someone is neurologically, into some sort of digital format. And so in that sense, people could begin saving their personality experiences and stuff in electronic format, and you could have stuff like people flash learning an entire lifetime worth of experience onto clones, and thereby extending life indefinitely, or even living in some sort of electronic medium where you're no longer even an organic entity. You just flash your personality template into some kind of robot, or becomes a cyborg. But I mean, it's a completely 100% artificial construct that your personality lives in, and definitely that's a kind of fantastic future. And again, for education, if we can just imprint entire personalities into whatever we want, it would be kind of a very interesting education world where you could have an electronic version of experts at your disposal, kind of like talking heads, in a very literal sense, inside the computer or inside a device that they can just talk to, and you can interact with them. Very advanced artificial intelligences, and possibly get to the point where there's intelligences that are beyond human capacity too, and then the imagination can just keep going and going forever. But anyhow, I hope you enjoyed this short presentation on the future of educational technology, and thank you for listening.